Hi, and thank you so much for joining us in the next vertical. So it is the Combating the Dark Side of FinTech, which we are leading now for the second time. I'm Mikhail, and let's start with all of the knowledge is actually in our network. We just have to find a holy grail to utilize that. Last year we worked on bringing different players from the ecosystem together on the stage. So we had members of the tax authorities, of reactor companies, of the police, of different other law enforcement agencies, as well as fintechs, to specify what have been the core challenges for us to move forward in the cooperation while we are sending different law enforcement requests, what actually happens to them, what are the key aspects of how we're supposed to be phrasing them better in order to help law enforcement. After last year's section, we have been able to do a lot of different cooperations. For example, FinCrime Exchange that has been present on the stage has been able to partner up with their Global Alliance Against Financial Crime. We have been able to create a lot of different networks within fintech companies. Joint new networks have been sharing a lot of knowledge with law enforcement agents. And this brought us to the second Combating the Dark Side panel that we are having today. My name is Mikhail, and then I have been a little bit like a fintech dinosaur for now, so I've been doing fintech for the last 12 years. You will see in the sections of the keynote that I'll be having as first, a couple of Forbes articles that I have typed during the last years connected with the topic. So then all of them will be coming from me. I'm the COO of Safello, which is the leading cryptocurrency broker that is now moving towards Nasdaq, potentially in quarter one or quarter two 2021 with 175,000 users, exchanging crypto to fiat, fiat to crypto, as well as on behalf of Safello, we just started a working group on digital assets and blockchain, because there have been a lot of different requests coming from public agencies to provide feedback on regulation legislation, a lot of different parties that wanted to get involved. And so bringing them together to the Swedish FinTech Association and having one forum together is allowing us to bring a little bit of more of transparency into the ecosystem as such. And then using the opportunity to see you, or e-see you, as differently last year I cannot see you directly yet. I would like to thank you, because one of the participants last year has nominated me for the Ecosystem Hero of the Year 2020 for Sweden, based on those verticals that I have been leading. So thank you so much for doing that, and I'm very, very proud that you liked what you have seen. So let us start with today's sessions. So I will start with a keynote where we are using one example of a case that happened this year when Twitter has been hacked, and as Elon Musk, Twitter has been hacked, Bill Gates's, but not Donald Trump's. And then we have been able to work together within the ecosystem to trace the different funds and make sure that the money that arrived on different platforms will be frozen and potentially returned to the victims. So based on that, you will understand how cryptocurrency compliance works, how what works and what doesn't really work in the quite fragmented ecosystem and the cooperation that we have between the different fintech companies. This is next. There is a fantastic panel that is picking this up. So then this panel will feature different members of law enforcement agencies as well as fintechs. So on one side we will have Magnus, who's working for the Finance Intelligence Unit from the police, Pia, who has been leading the Skatteverket, so Swedish tax authorities AML network, where fintechs can join together with incumbents to exchange and inform about the fraud waves which are going on. And then there will be Charlotte, which is the money laundering reporting officer from Pleo. A fintech just entered the Swedish market, and she is a member of the fintech FinCrime Exchange. This is how we actually met, and just very recently she has created like compliance AML training for fintech compliance officers in order to increase their level of knowledge. And after that, we will be speaking to a chief strategy officer from Swish, and a little bit of a different angle, because in combating the dark side is not only related purely to crime and to fraud, but a lot of deficiencies that we have within the ecosystem as such. This means that we have all of these regulatory frameworks with are working with one country, not within different countries. So then Swish has supported a creation of a European organization to unify cross-border transactions, help and the regulatory framework, and a little bit learn from each other's challenges in order to bring the ecosystem here to a different level. So then suddenly the dark side there is not really purely related to crime and fraud, but is more related to the lack of efficiencies that we have as such. Good. And then before I start with the keynote, what is very, very important for me, that even though we cannot really see each other in person, I would like you to connect to the speakers, connect to the LinkedIn of the speakers, reach out to the speakers, and please have this in mind that we are here for you, not the other way around. And I'm not a politician, so I don't really know how we're supposed to be upgrading different laws in order to facilitate a better cooperation or that will allow us to exchange more data. But everybody has their part in the ecosystem. So here we are trying to do our part from a Stockholm FinTech Week perspective, from Safello perspective, to just make sure that we do the best we can, because it says that the effects you have on others is the most valuable currency there is. So please keep in mind whenever you will finish this section, which is not very long, that we are not going away in any sense. So we are there for you, and we are happy to pass on the different networks that we have constructed so far. Good. So I will now continue talking, just jump into the keynote as such. So the best way to lead you into the combating of the dark side of fintech is actually to take a particular case that has happened this year and show you how we have been going across this particular case. So in this way, we can display what works and what doesn't really work. So then the case I wanted to talk to you today, so I have, let's call it 1.5 cases. So one that I can describe in more detail and one that you might be aware of. It has happened in the peak times of the summer. So during one particular day, the Twitter accounts of plenty of influencers have been hacked. So as mentioned, has been Elon Musk, it has been Bill Gates, but not Donald Trump. And what has been displayed is, you can see the message from Barack Obama. The messages have been a little bit different, as the user groups are different for the different Twitter accounts. But then the message was very similar. They technically said, I really support this or that organization. Please send money to their cryptocurrency wallet address. This is this long number, the long combination of letters and numbers. And then it took a while for those individuals to realize that this has been a hack and take down those addresses, and it took a while for Twitter to react. But this has been Barack Obama. Then we can have Elon Musk. So the messages are different, but what stays and is very similar is, of course, this cryptocurrency wallet address that we will be able to track in just a second. But before we do that, so that's more or less on an international perspective, and from a national perspective, the fintech ecosystem. Another Forbes article that I typed has provided a significant amount of support to the Swedish law enforcement agency. There have been more than 43 different players that have participated in providing the support, where the police asked to provide additional information, and all of them complied. And the result out of it was the termination of Fluxfam 2.0, what has been a dark narcotics market on the darknet. So here, just to display, there have been 4,244 individuals that have been sent, so they have been reported from Safello, so the company that I do represent, and I have been head of compliance or back in the day when this happened. So here, both of those cases, so the Twitter scam as well as Fluxfam, display a good start to understand how this works in practice from a fintech perspective side and from a law enforcement side. Okay, so here we have to very quickly dig into how to do things on the blockchain, and I'll just explain it briefly. So how to actually do investigations on the blockchain as such. Then we will speak about how to stop fraud on the blockchain, and then how do we actually notify partners, and then which type of networks have been utilized in order to make this work, and then what works and what doesn't work. Because it's a little bit different to have a propaganda slide and say that everything is working, but the reality is way different. Not as different, but not as perfect, somewhere in between. Okay, so going back to just the beginning, this is what is needed in order to run an e-commerce startup. So you need to have a platform, you have to have a payment system, you have to have a customer service to buy and sell, and then to get in touch with the customers. Then, of course, this is needed on top of it in order to have a fintech startup, to be registered with a financial supervision. Hopefully, have a license, have a registration, have a compliance department, have a fraud team. And on top of that, in order to run a cryptocurrency startup, that's all of those components plus the liquidity, the exchange, to make sure that the funds are being traced. There's something what is called Know Your Transaction. So it's KYT, what is coming on top of KYC, and KYB, Know Your Customer, Know Your Business, which have to be done. So then the crypto asset startups are a little bit more complex in order to be compliant. That's maybe the reasons why they started way later, and then the compliance regulations started way later than, for example, the payment startups like Klarna, iZettle, and Bambora, which have been there since 2007, 2008. Okay, it's very important to say, it's when I start to describing it, then there's a misperception that crypto assets are the Wild West. So technically, you can just do whatever, the money is being sent and is not being traced. This is incorrect. So all of the players which are active on the Swedish market, on the European market, they are now subject to the 5th AML directive and its implementation into the Swedish regulation. Of course, there is a need to do a full identification of customers, so that it is impossible to sell money, so to exchange crypto to fiat and fiat to crypto, actually without being identified in any way. And then keep in mind that blockchain remembers everything forever. So it's all of the transactions, even 10 years in the past, can be traced and can be investigated, which is way different than the regular cash, if you think about that from a comparison perspective. And then here, there is a huge amount of regulation coming up. There's a new regulation that will come into effect by end of the year. Louise is speaking about that in the European Digital Agenda section. So it's a part of the European digital financial frameworks and the financial innovation frameworks, where I have been participating in the Q&A with the ministry. This document that you see on the left side is 160 pages, which is quite a lot for an individual to go across and provide feedback to. But of course, this means that it's not a Wild West, but then it will be even more enhanced and clearer as such. So here, on a practical perspective, it takes 30 seconds to buy cryptocurrencies. So you just, when you have a Swedish tax residency, you can just go on the platform, one of the different platforms which are available. You type in the amount of SEK that you would like to exchange into, for example, Bitcoin, and then you press next. You pay in with Bank ID, with Swish, or with a bank transfer or credit card, depending on the different platforms. And then within the next half an hour, you will receive your crypto. What you cannot see, what happens in the back. So in the back, there are all of those checks which are being required by the regulator, the identification to make sure that the users are not on a sanction list, that they are not politically exposed, that to understand where the transactions are going, or from where they are coming from when they would like to exchange cryptocurrency and send it back to the Swedish crown. What happens in the background is such. So here again, I can just display one section out of 1 billion different sections in the different checks that are being done. But there is a part which is called crypto forensic. And this is very important in order to understand the review for combating the dark side of fintech that has been done during the summer, because we are doing Know Your Transaction, which is like it's not an official term. It's more like a commercial term from one of the providers, but it means when you look at your bank, they do know your customer and know your business. When you are sending money back and forth, you have proof of source of funds and proof of source of wealth. And what happens on the blockchain is know your transaction, because it is possible to trace the money on the blockchain as well. So here, just to clarify, so then for most of the platforms in Sweden, users have to specify their own cryptocurrency wallet addresses. The cryptocurrency wallet addresses are a little bit like bank accounts, with the difference that your bank account is connected to your ID or your passport, but your cryptocurrency account has not been always connected to it. It's more like it's like a software where you can keep your money. And then not all of the different currencies are following the logic, but the largest one, Bitcoin and Ether, they are pseudo-anonymous. And I'll explain in a second what this means. But this means that they can be seen on the blockchain. When you will receive this presentation, you can just click on the link, and then the best that I could be, from my perspective, the simplest that I could have done is in the Safello commercial. There's a part where this individual in the commercial is sending money to their cryptocurrency wallet address. I just copy-pasted the cryptocurrency wallet address, and you can see it. You can see it on the link. So technically, when you open it, then you can see how many of those transactions my colleague from the marketing department actually has had, where the money went to, when it has been paid in, or it has been kept or sent further. So this means that transactions are pseudo-anonymous. I looked for a comparison for a long time period. One of the best comparisons, I think, it's your credit card number. Now you might laugh and criticize, and potentially there are a lot of flaws in this idea as such. But when you think about your credit card number, when you would just give me your credit card number without your name, then there's no way for me to trace it back to your identity. So I don't really know who owns this who owns this credit card. But then I have the possibility as a police officer to reach out to MasterCard or Visa or UnionPay, depending who has issued or American Express, who has issued the credit card. They will definitely point me out to the particular bank that has issued it, and then the bank is able to point you back or to point me back to this particular individual or the company that has been using this credit card or debit card, or at least has the bank account is connected to. This is very similar to the cryptocurrency wallet address. So sending it back and forth is pseudo-anonymous. So it is not very possible to understand who is owning it. But because individuals have been connecting their transactions, they send the Swedish crown with bank ID to this particular address, there is a possibility and a logic to connect different cryptocurrency wallet addresses to the different users. Okay, lots of talking about Bitcoin, blockchain, and then cryptocurrency wallet addresses. But let us just go back to the practicalities of it. So coming back to Barack Obama, releasing the information, or like being hacked, and then releasing the information that he looks for the transactions that's supposed to be going to this cryptocurrency wallet address. I took this cryptocurrency wallet address and placed it into a wallet explorer. So you technically just copy-paste it into Google, and then you can see how many transactions went into this cryptocurrency wallet. So here you can see below, this is like the third row, how many transactions, how many individuals have actually paid into this particular fraud. And when this happens, then this is the amount of transactions, as well as when you scroll down, you can see the different movements on the blockchain. So then the fraudsters or the suspects have taken the money and have sent it to other wallet addresses. This is like a cat and a mouse game always, because then when money comes into cryptocurrency wallet addresses, it's usually not that they will send all of it to a platform which has to be compliant with the fifth AML directive, which is within Europe. So often those transactions are being divided into a lot of different smaller transactions, sent somewhere further. But it's not that chasing it is impossible. When this is just one of the examples how an investigation looks like. So here there is a transfer to this particular cryptocurrency address. You can have. Please look from the left to the right. So that's a transaction from a platform to a particular wallet. This is the first dot, and then you can see how this particular individual is trying to make sure that the funds are being sent to a lot of different other platforms, and then it gets more and more complicated. However, on the right side, so those blue dots, or they usually have different colors depending on the providers that you are using. They do display you to which platforms this money is going to. And in most of the cases, the money is going to other platforms where the fraudsters would like to cash out and make sure that they can that they can exchange this back to the US dollar, to the peso, and all of the different other currencies around the globe as such. So this is one provider which is having a white background and black dots. And then, of course, there's another provider where we started to do the investigation with. So here, the arrow that you see is actually the amount of money that has gone in. So it's the Barack Obama cryptocurrency wallet address or Elon Musk that's being displayed. And then those fraudsters started to send the money further. Surprise, surprise. But then, however, they started to forward the money as quick as they could to the different platforms in order to cash out the funds that have been coming in. Here in this particular setup with Valega Chain or others, because there are a couple of providers which are doing the traceability of those funds, you can see the names of the different platforms where the money went to. So here there are just two examples, and instantly, because cryptocurrency transactions are pseudo-anonymous, once we have discovered that this money reached particular platforms, then in more or less effective ways, it depends if those platforms are connected to those networks or they aren't. Sometimes I just had to call in to a platform's hotline and inform them that they have received money from the particular cryptocurrency wallet address they're supposed to be freezing. Sometimes when they are connected to those different networks, we can create an instant notification, or the police can create an instant notification to freeze those particular funds. So these and crypto compliance topics are topics that I could spend hours for. So then I just received this very short keynote from the team from Stockholm FinTech Week. So then the goal is to guide you across, and then you understand by now that it is possible to trace those different funds. And at the end, when you copy paste the Barack Obama cryptocurrency wallet address that has been displayed during the Twitter hack, you can see that the amount of money that has been raised or that has been where individuals have been defrauded. So this was 125,000 euro. It maybe sound a lot, but it sounds like a lot. But keep in mind that this is like an international hack that made it on CNN, on BBC. It went across Guardian as well. But then, despite this very, very significant media presence and Twitter acting semi-quick after a couple of hours, this is not the biggest hack and not the biggest amount of money that has been raised with a fraud by now. So here, the challenge in crypto compliance is not the intersection between fiat currency and crypto. So it is the Swedish crown to crypto or crypto to the Swedish crown, because then individuals like myself, we can do an investigation on the blockchain where the money has been. It's more the crypto-to-crypto transactions, where those individuals are sending money from one cryptocurrency wallet address created, for example, in China to another wallet address created in Russia. However, since the Financial Action Task Force, which is like a global regulator, Swedish FSA, European Security Market Agency, Financial Action Task Force, has created something what is called a travel rule. So it is forcing now the wallet providers to send the identification information to the other providers. The amount of transparency on the blockchain will increase even further. This has been a reply to Facebook Libra. So when Facebook announced that they would like to do a global cryptocurrency, I think the Financial Action Task Force just scared off and just created some kind of a regulation as a recommendation that will be now implemented. This has not been implemented on the European level yet. So, but from a practical terms, as I promised you to display what works and what doesn't really work. So when you check when this Twitter hack has happened, it was like in the middle of the summer. So from a practical perspective, the colleagues to whom I'm connected with from Valega Chain have reached out to me. So I received a notification, a smartwatch, something similar like FBI would like to receive help in order to trace Elon Musk hacked cryptocurrency wallet address, which I technically ignored because it really feels similar to a notification like the Minister of Finance from Nigeria has just found $1 billion that he or she would like to send to you. But then this works very strongly on a personal level. Then I received a phone call if there is a possibility to sit down and review those transactions while being on a windsurfing board in the middle of the lake. So then it was possible to grab a laptop and to make sure that none of the fellow customers have been affected. What was very important for me, because I feel like every time the personal responsibility for my 175,000 customers, that they remained safe. But then as a next step, then we use the networks. So I reach out to FinCrime Exchange. So Charlotte is from FinCrime Exchange to notify my colleagues active in the space if they have seen that, as well as being a contributor to Forbes Crypto and for Forbes Blockchain. There are a lot of different individuals connected to this particular space. So we have been able to form a network in order to investigate those transactions very, very quickly. And then after we did start to find something, and then the money hitting the different exchanges, this was the time for the different players to notify the police. And that's a good example of combating the dark side, because maybe there's supposed to be some kind of a structured way of notifying the police first, or working together with the police, or first doing the investigations. But why should we do the investigations? And it's a little bit impossible for, here as an example, the Swedish police, its Swedish users have not been impacted. Why should they be involved? So which type of a police should we be reaching out in order to coordinate such efforts? Who's supposed to be coordinating it? Who's supposed to be connected to the network? Who can be trusted? Who can be not trusted? And this shows you clearly the challenges that we have while working together to combat the dark side of fintech, because it works on a personal connection level, and for us to work within those different networks and get the knowledge out of the networks and get the experience after the networks as such. And the Bitcoin scam, the Twitter hack, because it's important to say that you will see it in the end presentation. It's not that Bitcoin has been hacked, Twitter has been hacked. It's just one of the examples. As the investigations are getting more and more complex, here you can see one of the investigations that has been reported by the Wall Street Journal. Remember all of the dots that I've been showing you a couple of slides before? Even though if you are not able to see those dots, there are a million of those small dots which represent different transactions in those particular type of investigations. So of course, as the ecosystem gets more interconnected and transactions are flowing quicker to different providers, as so are the different transactions needed to be supervised. So there is a huge need for us to work together better and more efficiently than to just receive a notification on a smartwatch and for somebody to wait for me to get off my windsurfing board and find a laptop and a secure internet connection to notify somebody else. It feels that this is not how the society should work, or we reached a particular point where we need to have a little bit more of coordination. So I do apologize for speaking very, very quickly, but I get very passionate and then fly away sometimes on my different topics. But here, within the last 20 minutes or so, you have seen the different collaboration networks. So for example, the FinCrime Exchange that we have been working with, or the different providers. You have understood that there are different providers in order to trace the cryptocurrency on the blockchain. You have seen the fragmentation of fintech, so it does work, and it worked out in particular cases, but in others it needs a stronger collaboration and cooperation. We did clarify what blockchain-based compliance really is, and how crime traction on crypto compliance or on blockchain works. Now I specify that we have defined Bitcoin and blockchain. I think this is something that we have not done properly yet. So here, for those of you who are new to Bitcoin and to blockchain, what Bitcoin is to blockchain is what Yahoo or Gmail is to the internet. So here, the blockchain is the overarching technology, the same like the internet is the technology for email. But then, as email means, email is allowing us to send messages over the internet. Cryptocurrencies are allowing us to send value over the internet with the help of blockchain, which is a particular technology. Now I can checkbox the definition of Bitcoin and blockchain. But then here, you understood as well that there are a lot of different regulatory frameworks which are coming up, primarily in connection with Facebook Libra. However, they are not there yet, or they are coming in. And even if they will be implemented within the EU, this doesn't mean that they will be implemented internationally. For example, one of the transactions from the Twitter hack, it went to Mercado Bitcoin in Brazil. So then suddenly we have two different platforms working to do different regulatory frameworks, but this is still better than nothing, or the situation that we had so far, where all of the different countries have their way of defining how platforms are supposed to operate. And last but not least, so once again, the summary. So the summary, and what I would like you to remember when it comes to this Twitter hack is the analogy. So when a light bulb breaks down at home, nobody would claim that electricity has been hacked. Similar here, when Twitter has been hacked, not Bitcoin or blockchain itself. Because very often in media, what we have seen, there has been this entire coverage that Bitcoin has been hacked and Elon Musk has been hit by Bitcoin. It's not really the case. It's rather the Twitter has been hacked. And then the most important message out of all of it is that it is not easy to be traced. It's very time consuming. It requires a lot of coffee, cooperation, and then exchanging of messages between the different trusted parties. But it is possible to recover a significant amount of those funds. And it will be even more possible once in the next panel that will be just coming after this keynote. We will be speaking about what are the different solutions for 390 plus companies and fintech companies in Sweden to work together with law enforcement and the tax authorities, and as well as if we can just combine the different networks, FinCrime Exchange with the AML network of Skatteverket, Swedish tax authorities. Because as of now, we work more as divided islands, but reflecting on the presentations and our last year vertical, we are way further because we started to understand that we work in silos. So it is important for us to have those cross-silo leaders who step up and try to connect the different ecosystem. And this is why we decided to run the vertical today. Thank you so much.